It's time to take your seat in the front row with Mike Vaccaro. Here's your host, Mike Vaccaro.
Thank you, Chuck, and welcome everybody. Mike Vaccaro back here in the front row, your host here today. Thanks for joining us. Behind the scenes, as always, it's J.R. Quitman, our creator, producer, and director. We're up to episode number 18, and for episode 18, it's sports and cinema that we're talking about. Daniel Hargrave, former UNCW baseball standout, also spent a little time in the minor leagues, now a stuntman in Hollywood. He's done a lot of different stunts, working with his brother Sam Hargrave, also doubled for a time for Chris Evans, Captain America in the Marvel Universe. He tells some of those stories coming up today, episode number 18 of In the Front Row with Mike Vaccaro. Well, Daniel, first of all, thanks for joining us, man. It's great to catch up with you. It's been a while since we last saw you. I last saw you on the baseball field at UNCW as a player. Then as a coach, we're going to dive into that and certainly what you're doing now. But for you, I want to go back to the very beginning. And again, this is a sports show, so let's start there. Born in Durham, mid-1980s, you grew up in Hurdle Mills, North Carolina. Tell us the place that sports had in your life early on, because obviously it influenced you in your career, and I'm sure has affected you what you're doing right now.
Yeah, I mean, for me, sports was huge. That was kind of my biggest, I guess, because my dad played college baseball, Wake Forest. He always was, super athletic, loved basketball, golf. Basically, since I could walk, I remember we're playing every sport. Basically, per the season, if it was football season, we're throwing football or playing basketball, baseball. We played golf. He'd make us learn tennis. It was a good way to bond for me and my brother and my dad. Our sister was the oldest. She rode horses, so she didn't really get into the sports world. And then my granddad, my dad's dad, he played professional baseball, and he was always just a huge sports advocate as well. So there was something that all the boys had in common. And as my brother got older, he migrated more towards the martial arts world. And ultimately, that's what took him into the film business and where he is today. But I stuck, baseball was sort of my passion. I loved football. I loved basketball, but I was, in high school, I was 5'11", 150 pounds. So I wasn't really knocking anybody on the football field. And basketball, I played a couple years in high school, but I knew that wasn't my route. But baseball is just, it was always my passion. I think it stuck with me. I wouldn't say I knew I was good at it, but it was, because my dad and my granddad, we had the biggest bond, and that was just sort of what we did, all summer long. And my dad built a batting cage, and my granddad would come throw me BP, or my dad when he got home from work. So it was just what we loved to do, and it was the great bonding, a means of bonding for the boys,
Yeah, it seems like everybody we've talked to and interviewed, they played a lot of different sports, as you said there yourself, and then at some point they kind of honed in. When did you kind of hone in on baseball? Because obviously then you went to college to play baseball. So was there a point where you thought, okay, this was the avenue to get me to the next step?
I'd say 8th grade was sort of when I realized I was decent. Because, growing up, my dad, he actually ran all the youth athletics in our town in Hillsborough. It's called HYAA, Hillsborough Youth Athletic Association. He was the president and sort of chaired all that. And he wouldn't let me play any organized sports until I was 10. And my friends were playing, I was complaining, but this is his mindset. He saw so many kids come and go, get burned out, or just at the younger levels, which I don't necessarily agree with all this, but he was like, I don't want you to go out there and play for some coach who either doesn't know what they're doing or just not enjoy it and veer off of it. I want you to wait till you can make that decision. And when I was 10, I was able to join, played a little league team. He didn't head coach, he helped coach, and I loved it. And I was like, this is what I want to do. I want to play. And I'd play every year. And then when I was homeschooled. My parents homeschooled us because in our area, the school districts were not, they're much better now. They weren't great. My mom was a college. Well, she had her master's degree in early childhood development and teaching. So she thought she could rear us better than probably the public school system. So I was homeschooled, my brother and sister. And then when I got to middle school, I wanted to go to school because I knew I wanted to play organized sports. All my friends were playing, middle school baseball. I wanted to join the team. So I went to school in 8th grade. I played football that year, loved it. I wasn't the biggest, but man, it was so much fun. I mean, just the memories, the friendships, and just getting out there and laying down some pads on guys, hitting guys was the best. I mean, that was the first time I'd played organized football too. didn't play basketball the year. I just prepped ready for baseball. I was so excited for it. And our team, kind of the history of that school, they hadn't lost, in football, we were the first team, our first game of the season that year. We had the first loss in like 5 years. And in baseball, they had won. I mean, a lot of good talent went through that area. And I was, when you're that age, 13, 14, you kind of want to carry on the tradition. And I just really wanted to play. We were the Stanford Chargers. That was our Stanford middle school. And it was, in the town, we got hundreds of fans. I mean, it was a big thing even for a middle school game. They'd come to middle school and then they'd go watch the high school guys. So 8th grade, I really honed in on it. I had hit my growth spurt. I was, not the biggest, but I was close to being fully grown. I started throwing a little harder. I could hit harder. And then, before that season, I maybe had hit 2 home runs ever in my life. And that year I set a school record. I hit 11 home runs. I remember in 8th grade. It was just something, it all just came together. I just found my swing. I found everything. And I just remember, it's funny. I haven't talked about this in so long, but it was kind of fun. It'd come and my granddad would sit in the stands. I'd hear him yelling at me. He'd pay me every time I hit a home run. So I'd hear him say something and I'd sort of laugh and I hit a home run. Then he'd give me $20 afterwards or something. But I'd say 8th grade was really when I hit my stride. And then, I realized I didn't even know, this is how funny, like before social media. And I was just this country kid. I didn't even really think about that college baseball was something that you could do. I just loved playing and I was so competitive. It was so much fun. And then we got to, next year going to the high school, made the JV team. And then at the end of the season, I got pulled up to varsity. That's a memory I'll never forget, striking out to end our season hopes. They put me in. That was they pinch hit a freshman for a senior, 2 outs last inning. And it was interesting. The left-hander from Jordan High School was throwing about 94 miles an hour and smoked me 3 pitches. I was out and I was like, oh, welcome to varsity baseball. But I still just loved it. I played third base then. I really wanted to be a catcher. My dream, I loved catching more than anything. I caught in middle school and pitched some. Never played middle infield really. My dad calls it the tools of ignorance. I loved the gear. I loved the collision. I wanted to catch. So I didn't catch in high school. They had a upperclassman. Then 10th grade, it started becoming more reality. I wanted to play. And then Josh Horton was my best friend in high school. He went to UNC Chapel Hill. He started getting a lot of scouts coming to see him. He hit this huge growth spurt. He was like 6'2", long, lanky, and just became a man's man in like 10th grade. Got a lot of attention, and I was sort of playing second fiddle, which I didn't care. It was great. They're all there to see him. I would do my thing, and that's sort of how I got seen a little bit. Just happened chance. I still wasn't thinking like I'm gonna go play college baseball. I didn't even think I was gonna go to college. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't really have any goals or aspirations really towards in baseball. I just knew I loved it. And when it was baseball, like a game, I just would zone out completely. And I was so locked in. And that was just, you couldn't even tell you if there's fans. I was so, I guess, ingrained and just loved it so much. It was like, it was a baseball game. I was just in it 100%, lived it. And just afterwards, it's like you black out and then you come out of it. So yeah, I just lived in the moment. It's like, man, this is the best. And then as I got going, 10th grade, 11th grade is when, we had another solid team. That was when we started having, I remember NC State came to see Josh. We were in the gym practicing. The Tar Heels, some guys come to see him. I was like, oh, maybe this is reality. And I wasn't getting any calls. I was like, oh, this is weird. Josh is getting all the information. And then next year we went to state games and sort of that's when I realized I had an awesome tournament at the state games. And again, I just went there. I didn't even, I hate this, I'll say it, but we had a family vacation planned and my arm was hurting. I had some tendonitis in my elbow. Our school season was over. We had just played like a summer ball season, Legion. I was just sort of burnt out. Like I'm tired. I'm 17 here. I'm like, I just don't want to touch a baseball for a little while. I just need a little break. And state games tryouts came up and I was like, I'm not even going to go. I don't even want to go. And I told Coach Dean Deese at Orange, I was like, I don't even want to try out. He said, I think that's a mistake. So I went home, thought about it. My dad said, you're going. So I drove myself to practice or to the tryouts, had a decent tryout, made the team. I was like, now I got to go play. So we went to state games. I just went off, had a great tournament. We actually, the day we got done with the tournament, Next day we got on a plane. We went out of the country, went to St. Martin. My parents have been planning this forever because I was about, getting older. Is the last time they're going to have a trip with all the kids. Went to St. Martin, came home and had, like every team had called me, left me a message, but I just was off the radar. So they thought I was just ignoring them. Because I remember the first time I called anybody back, like, damn, it's been a week. We called you, wanted to interview you, and nobody called me back. So yeah, that was sort of my baseball story getting into,
So you go to a tryout that you don't want to go to, and all of a sudden you become a commodity on the college level. When did UNCW materialize as a school that was recruiting you and as a potential place for you to go and continue being a baseball player?
I mean, honest, I had all the phone calls, the message. I went through, called every coach, and talked to them. And Coach Scott Jackson and Randy Hood had both called me, left me messages. I mean, the recruiting game, for people that don't know, it's all how you talk and what you get guys into. But just talking to them, they were so professional. They liked what I did. And then to another, this isn't how I played, but I played like I had so much fun, and it was all about fun for me. And Josh was on there too. So Josh was playing shortstop. I was playing second base. And honestly, this is going back to state games, like during infield, I blame Chris Maples. He played at Orange High School, played at UNC Chapel Hill, played in the Detroit Tigers organization for a long time, but he was so much fun to be around. And during infield, like we would just try stuff. I would always backhand glove flip or stuff that, traditional infield is like, just go by the book, double play, make your backhand, just do stuff. But we'd mess around because we would actually make these plays in games, and we always practice them. And at state games, Josh and I were hot dogging a little bit, not trying to show off or do anything, but just because we were having fun. When we get on the field, we would try to show each other up. And first day of infield, they hit my slow roller at the end, and I come through, and I practice this all the time, but I would barehand it and throw it between my legs as I ran. It's sort of like I was off balance and throw it, hit the guy right in the chest. Perfect. Ran off the dugout. That was just how that was like my sign off. Thought nothing of it. And I had numerous coaches leave me messages and tell me, like, man, you're a hot dog. I don't know if we want you in our program. We liked your talent, but I just don't know if you're a good fit. And I was like, wow, it really took me back, because I was like, I 100% was not trying to show off. I do this because I've actually made that play in a game where I caught it, I fell, and I threw it, and we practice these things because
your legs. You did that in a high school game?
I did, yeah. And
wow.
had I not, I just something we always practice. And Coach Deese, I think it drove him crazy at first, but then he would that'd become a drill where you dive, you use your glove, because you never know, stuff happens, and it's just because you practice it. Now when you watch the big leaguers, they're always doing this stuff. The routine is very seldom. I say 90% of the time it's routine, but that other 10%, you have to be able to make up stuff and make a play. So anyway, a couple coaches, I was like, wow, that kind of threw me off a little bit. And a couple schools were like, nah, we're writing you off because we don't like your style.
Wow.
So I said, okay, that's great. And then Randy was great. Scott was great. And I'm telling my dad's going to kill me for saying all this, but another big thing for me was not having morning workouts, because I hated early mornings. So one of the first questions I would ask coaches was, when do you guys hit the weights? When do you run? Do you do morning workouts? And at the time, Wilmington said, no, we do afternoon workouts. I was like, I love it. Let's come check it out. You're at the beach. I didn't know anything about the program. Only thing I really knew was East Carolina, because Brett Braxton had gone there out of high school, and I knew some of my friends went East Carolina. And still, this is before Instagram, Facebook. I was so oblivious going into this. I'd never been to a college baseball game. I'd been to the Durham Bulls. I'd never been to a big league game. I was just, call it ignorance is bliss, I guess. 18-year-olds, and never really had a clue what was going on. So I came on my visit. I was like, yeah, this is it. My mom took me on my recruiting visit. Kenny Smith was my host. I never forget Kenny. He's like, we're going out. We're going to go to a dinner, go see some friends. I said, cool. He shows up in a black turtleneck and some slacks. I'm like, who the hell is this guy? And I'll tell Kenny that to his face. I was like, I'm not used to seeing guys like this. So we went to dinner and went to a little party. I met the team. It was super cool, super inviting. And I was like, man, I think this is it. The field, it's nothing compared to what it is today with all the indoor facilities and stuff. But, the field was beautiful. The team was great. I went the next day to practice, watched them practice, and I committed. I was like, yeah, I'll come here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
2005 to 2008, you were a Seahawk. You're playing for Mark Scalf. You just said, assistant coach Randy Hood, assistant coach Scott Jackson, who's now the head coach at Liberty. And you came at a good time. I mean, this was a good program. You had good talent on your teams. You won a couple of championships. You went to NCAA tournaments as well. I want to talk about a couple of the years here. 2006, again, you win a CAA title, NCAA Regional in Chapel Hill as well. So for you, it was close to home, right? A little special, more meaningful for you to play in a regional and play so close to home for you?
I mean, honestly, no. I think deep down I know my freshman year we were all very disappointed. I thought we had a great season that year. We didn't make a regional, which was a big gut punch to everybody. I mean, I thought we should have not maybe hosted, but we should have definitely been in there. And it was a hard pill to swallow. I think sophomore year, we were just glad to be representing again. Because for us, we came in as freshmen. You don't want to be the guys that come in and let the team down. I feel like because there was some of us who played quite a bit, myself and Jason Appel, and it hit home. Like this is reality. They'd gone before. It was all this big talk. We didn't make it. So I think coming back, we just wanted to go to regional. Playing in Chapel Hill was great just because it was home, but also I don't think that was a fair draw going because that year, I mean, not that we were extremely talented, but I mean, that was probably one of the most stacked regionals and we were a high seed. I mean, you had UNC that year was ridiculous. And then all the other teams there, I just thought, we should have gone somewhere else. Honestly, I mean, the way the way it works is the seeding doesn't always match up. And yeah, it was close to home. It was great, but I think we were a little bit bummed that we were going there because we could have won easily. We had the team, we just didn't perform as well. But always going to go to a regional where it's a little less daunting. I mean, those guys were stacked that year. You're firing, big leaguer after big leaguer coming in there to pitch with Andrew Miller, Bard. Those guys, you're like, okay, what else you got?
Well, UNCW had some future big leaguers as well. Chris Hatcher, who would be a catcher and then a pitcher in major leagues. John Rayner as well. So obviously, you had some talent on some of those teams that you were on. Some of the teams when you were a younger player. Did you learn some good lessons from them and how they carried themselves?
Yes, I would say. And this is also going back in hindsight. That's the whole thing. As I get older, it's ridiculous. But every player, once you get to college, man, like for me, going to the regionals. They're all the same. Like I'm playing against Josh. I'm playing with the guys I've played with my whole life. They're wearing a Tar Heel uniform. We're wearing a Seahawk. Everybody's so good. And I think sometimes teams psych themselves out. Yeah, they have a bigger stadium or they have more fans, but I think guys put each other on pedestals just because of a school they go to, which is so unnecessary. Because if you go in there and everybody's record's 0-0, it's just a bunch of kids playing baseball. And I think for us, we put too much pressure on ourselves and we not thought they were better. We were fierce and competitive, and Coach Scalf and Hood and everybody they'd drive in your mind. They're just the other guys. But I think sometimes, even if accidentally you kind of put more pressure on yourselves. But one thing, circling back to John, like Rayner and Hatcher, those guys, they were just a different breed. The way they showed up, the way they prepared. Even if they're having a bad day, they're still levels above everybody else. That's one thing you learn. Like for me, yeah, I played college. I played a year of professional. I had to have my best game. Like talent-wise, I might not have been the most talented. I would play hard. I wouldn't let anybody outplay me. But if I had a bad game, usually it showed. These guys could still have a bad game and be unbelievable. Especially John. He's such a talented, top-notch speed and arm and hitting. And Chris, the same thing. It's just – but their preparation, I mean, I wouldn't say they prepared any different than the rest of us. I think their talent was just so paramount compared to ours that – they would just do their thing, and you're like, okay, this guy's he's got something special,
Well, you had something special as going into your senior year, and that year was an all-conference year for you. Another regional appearance, again hosted by North Carolina, this time in Cary. And for me, what sticks out, obviously, in that regional, that come from behind win against Elon. You go into the ninth inning, you're down 11-4, top of the ninth inning, elimination game. Your season is over, right? What was it like? Take us through being in the dugout there, and then as that inning unfolded and you start coming back as a team, what was that like?
Man, I haven't talked about this. It's funny reliving these, but man, from what I remember, it's. I mean, I won't lie. Again, it's in the ninth. You're down 11-4. You're kind of like in the back of your mind, like, damn, season's over. Just go up there and get your last hack in, whoever's up to hit. And then I don't even remember who started the inning, but you see a hit, you're like, oh, okay, good for him. He's getting one last hit in for the season, Somebody else gets a hit. Okay, yeah, all right, cool. Let's keep it going. You try to cheer each other on. Then obviously you believe you can win. You never cash it in, but it's always, it is pretty daunting being down that many runs, and you start to let doubt creep in. But then just something felt like, I don't know, it was just something was palpable. The energy, like as soon as the first guys got a hit, and you just walk up and down the dugout, because I'd always pace walking down. You see this look in everybody's eye, like something special is about to happen. I don't know what's going on right now. It just felt in the air. You could feel like, okay, something is like swinging our way right now. And then the next guy gets a hit. We score a run. We score another run. And we keep going through. And it almost became laughable. I remember in the dugout, we were laughing, having a good time cutting up, because like we couldn't get out. We just kept hitting, but they boot a ball. We'd hit one. It's like, this is happening, guys. This is unbelievable. Let's just keep rolling. And even Coach Hood's laughing, like, let's just do what we can do. And then, it's so crazy that we came back. I remember we hit that, the winning run. It's just like you're almost laughing. Like I almost feel bad for them that they just blew it so bad. But it was thoroughly enjoyable. Like one of probably the most fun games, because you're on this roller coaster. And like I said, the emotions, like you're playing good, then your season's over, you're coming back. You're like, it's, as a senior, you're like, I don't want to end this way, and we're going to fight our way. And then you're just like, you're so high. And then you have to come back and play a game after that. Like, come back, you're like, how do we rein this in and harness this to go back and try to win another one? So it was wild. It was a crazy game.
Yeah, I think that was one of the most crazy games I've ever called. As you said, again, the come from behind, the roller coaster. You score 11 runs and you win that game, 15-11 after trailing 11-4 going into that ninth inning. So, a great way for you, again, to cap your career. And you look at some of the numbers. You're first still in runs scored, seventh in hits, fourth in RBIs, first in total bases, fourth in hit by pitch. You're third in home runs with 39, just one shy of the school record. Do you think about that? Do you think about some of those numbers, or is it more the relationships that you look back at your time at UNCW?
Man, I think I should have the home run record if they didn't make me bunt so much. I hold
Is that Mark Scalf or is that Randy Hood? Who made you bunt?
I don't know. We'll talk about this later, but my senior year, I don't know. Honestly, I think I think about the numbers jokingly. It's so, at the time I wanted to be the home run leader, and that was sort of a thing. But probably a game that sums it up is James Madison. I hit second. Jason's hitting third, and then Carver's hitting fourth. And I just remember leadoff guy gets on. I hit a home run. Bam. Awesome. Next time up, lead guy gets on. Bunt. I'm like, come on. I bunt. Jason rolls one over, so you got two outs. You got on third. Carver hits a home run. Great. Next time up, bunt. Jason rolls one over. Nothing against Jason, or he might have got a hit, but I'm like, okay. And then I hit another home run. So I had two home runs. And I had that series, I was just on fire. And then every time I'd see the bunt, it was almost a joke. Like Hood would give me the bunt sign, and I'd be like, come on, man, just let me swing. Like Jason can hit a home run too. He can knock one in. But it was a team thing. I'll never, I was 100% team guy. I'm never gonna complain, or I was good at bunting, and I knew my role. That's my job. Hey, I'm gonna put a bunt down, because to be fair, I struck out my fair share of times. I probably have the record for strikeouts as well. So,
you're off the record, but you're up.
Yeah, I'm pretty close. Me and Josh Bonifay, we like to swing and miss a little bit. But that goes back to when I was younger. Swing hard in case you hit it. That's what my granddad would say. I'm not blaming him for anything, but yeah. And then I had some funny coaches all growing up in high school. Matt McKay was our assistant coach. Was just a character. He played independent ball for years, was one of the best independent ball players and catcher, and he had all these sayings, and he'd say singles are stupid, hit doubles or home runs, because he didn't like to run. He was like catcher, so obviously it's a joke, but I think I said it on the field one time, and Scalf made me run laps because I was joking, but he said, "That's bullshit, Danny, get running." And I said, well, I was just joking, but okay, I'll run. I look at the numbers from where I am now, they, whatever. But at the time, it grinds you a little bit. Like, man, I could have hit one more home run, two more home runs, or done this, done that. But that's life, But as long as the team was winning, I mean, there was plenty of games where I went over or had the hat trick or 3 strikeouts and we'd win. So, nobody was patting me on the back for that. So.
Yeah, definitely is a great program. They preach family and preach team, and certainly that was the case with you. So despite Randy Hood making you bunt all the time, you get drafted by the Phillies, and you go to Williamsport. What was that transition like for you, going from the collegiate level, now it's a business, now it's on the professional level? How hard was it, a transition for you?
It was different. It was, and honestly, it was a weird time. I was kind of in a funk at the end of the season, my senior year. I had a great year. That tournament, and this is just reality, I was off to go. Just Coach Hood had summed it up. I remember my sophomore year, that's when we started meeting with, I forgot the sports psychologist guy, but he would say he wanted to get me more consistent, because he said you can either be the best hitter in the country or the worst hitter in the country, depends on the week. And I take all this with a grain of salt, but it was true, because there was days I was seeing a beach ball and I could do no wrong, and there were some days I just could not pick up spin, and I'd get my eyes looked at. I had, my vision was fine. I don't know what it was. I would just get in these funks, and it was frustrating. So I wasn't the most consistent guy. I was up and down, which translated, my numbers were fine, but if I could go back, I would try to find a better way to be more consistent. And my senior year, at the very end, I was in a funk mentally. If you look at the numbers, I had like 21 errors that year. I had the yips. Kind of this thing was going on, and I couldn't explain it. The most routine, if it was hit right to me, oh my God, I could not hit a guy in the chest to save my life. And to me, it kind of actually translated from defense to offense. It's at the end, it sort of snowballed, and it was just sort of I was having some issues with it. And then, so when I got drafted, I went to spring mini camp down there in Florida, and I was super excited. Look, I'm going to get a chance to play pro ball. I was hoping to just wash everything out and go in, new team. Nobody's seen me make errors, because I carried it heavy with me. It was just not like a mental burden, but it was like, I'm better than this, and I didn't know how to fix it, and that was very frustrating. So I go into mini camp, played pretty well, but my swing, I could not figure it out. So my swing completely changed. I went from my stance I'd had all year. I was trying everything. I'd be up back and just something to like get my brain going. And I hit pretty well in mini camp. So I was like, they're like, this isn't the swing we've seen when we scouted you, but whatever. And then I get to Williamsport, and I think the hardest part for me was not playing every day, not being consistent, because I was, we had 2 second basemen, because I was a middle of the pack 22nd rounder. So you play 2 days here, 2 days there. And I could never get in a role, never get in a groove. We're playing, when you get to the minors, we were playing short season A-ball. So you're playing all the really good rookies or college guys. So there's no slack, and a lot of good breaking balls, a lot of 2-seamers, a lot more movement than you see in college. College, your starter or your closers are solid. Usually the middle, if you get in the middle relievers, you got a little break and you can pad your stats. But these guys are studs, hitting with a wood bat full time. So there was a lot kind of all happening, and being away from home. Williamsport was great. The people were great, but it was not the most fun place to be. I'll give it to them. So it was a lot. And hindsight, it's all 100% my fault. I just let it kind of snowball and didn't have the greatest season. I'd get kind of down on myself, and me being how I'd almost overwork. I'd go hit extra in the cage, and instead of just maybe taking, as I've learned, take a step away from it, come back the next day and try, I got to fix it. So I'd hit for hours, or I'd go throw, and I'd just even mess myself even more. But my team and my coaches it was the best experience ever. Dusty Wathan was our manager. Eric Valent was our hitting coach, and these guys were unbelievable. The first game we actually played against Mark Carver, against the Pittsburgh Pirates organization, and we go up to College Station up at Penn State, and we get smoked. First game, we're all stoked. We're Phillies. We're gonna go out there. We get pounded, and we're in the locker room after the game, because we're all college kids, and usually, this is totally different in college. You only play 5 games a week, so if you lose, you take it very personal. We're gonna get them next game, and everybody's a little down and somber, and we're all just sitting there quiet. And Coach Wathan walks in with no shirt on, with a beard. He's like, I won't curse, but what the F's wrong with you guys? We're like, huh? He's like, we're playing again tomorrow. Who gives a crap. We're like, what? What's this guy saying? He's like, get up, go get some food, go home, and we're playing again tomorrow. Get it out of here. And we're like, whoa, okay, this is totally different. So that mentality, not saying college guys need to have that, but it was became a business. Today's over, wash it out. We'll come back tomorrow. Who cares? You went over, you had a bad game. And it was kind of a refreshing, just mental break from these guys. And they'd be joking. They're in the locker room. Not that they didn't take it serious, but it's a long season. It's a business. They've been around forever. So it was just a total different to me. Like in college, they're all your brothers. You got 30, 40 guys who you spend every day with all day. They're your best buddies. You're in class with them. You train, the gym, everything. These guys, you come, you play. Some guys would hang out. Some guys would go do their own thing. You don't all speak the same language. So it was very, very different. So that actually, it was a kind of a cool moment to say, okay, they're not mad at us. We're playing a game. We're coming back tomorrow. We're professionals. They're treating us like professionals. And I think that set the precedent for the season. I think everybody relaxed a little bit and we had a little more fun. And but the learning, those guys' stories and the stuff they tell you, and you're trying to focus, and they're joking with your zip tying my pants to the ball bucket before I'm going to hit, and the coach is doing that. I'm like, well, I'm supposed to be playing here. These guys are nuts. So it was a fun experience.
Yeah, that was in 2008 for you, and I guess you were released in 2009, right? And your brother at the time, you mentioned the mixed martial arts. He became a stuntman, got into that, and you got your first taste of that. You're learning and trying to see what's next for you. Tell us about that first experience that you had on a set and making that transition. Okay, my playing career is over. I got to do something. Let's give this a shot.
Yeah, so I got released. I knew it was coming. I had terrible spring training. All off season, I went in there. I thought I was prepared, but I didn't perform. I think ultimately, mentally, I just wasn't. I didn't give up, but I don't know. It's a weird in life. Sometimes it just hits, and I was just like, I don't know if this is what I want to do anymore. I love baseball, but I didn't love what was happening. I didn't love where I was mentally. I wasn't performing. They cut me. I knew it was coming, and it was hard pill to swallow because the first time in my life I had ever been told I wasn't good enough at something. So it was very humbling. I flew home, was sort of down. My brother was on a movie called Warrior. They were shooting in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania with Tom Hardy. And it was an MMA movie they were shooting in Pittsburgh. And he and his buddies were up there, been training for 6 months. They're all just jacked out of their mind and performing. I had never been to a set and didn't know anything was going on. So Sam called me. He's like, hey, man, so I know you're done with baseball. Why don't you come try stunts? And I was like, I don't really want to. It's not my thing. And I was very much like that also. He had his things. I had my things. We were both good at it, but we didn't, we were best friends growing up, but we definitely had our own things. And I was like, nah, I'm good. He's like, what else you gonna do? I was like, I have no idea. So my dad, mom, like, just try it. So I get on a plane. I go to Pittsburgh. I train with these guys for a week. I'm the fresh meat, so they're beating the crap out of me. And I'd never done a night shoot. So my first time on set, we're shooting in Pittsburgh overnight, and it's like 30 degrees outside, and we're shooting a cage fight match. So we're in just shorts, freezing. I'm like, this is miserable. You guys do this for a living? So it's like 4 a.m. My brother, he's so good. He'd be over there sleeping, and they say, stunts, get ready. So he wakes up, he jumps around, does a flip. He's like, let's go. And I'm like, what the heck? So I get in there, and he and I actually did a little fight together, and I was just playing a random guy. He was doubling the main actor. My 5 seconds of fame. We go in there and slam. Everybody's cheering, and the cameras are rolling. This is pretty cool. It was miserable, and then that was it. I mean, I trained for a week. I get on camera for maybe 5 seconds. I was like, this is pretty cool. And then but it didn't hit me like this. This is my love. These guys it's a different brotherhood, different world. I didn't really feel part of it yet. So I said, thanks. I think because his boss, JJ Perry, who's actually a good friend of mine now. He's a director and just a great filmmaker, stunt coordinator. He said, all right, pack your bags. You're moving to LA. And I was like, nah, I don't think I am. I have a girlfriend back in North Carolina, and I don't think I'm ready to go to California. So maybe pump the brakes here. So I went home. I didn't pursue it. I said, thanks. I had my SAG card, but I didn't pursue it. I was like, I think I'm good on it. So then I actually called Coach Jackson. I was like, hey, man, who's the volunteer this year? I kind of want to try my hand at coaching baseball. And he said, sure, let's figure it out. So I came back. He actually moved on. So Coach Howell came in as the pitching coach, and I was the volunteer assistant. So I went back to UNCW. Couldn't get. I loved it, and it became a time where I was like, I need to pay the bills. I can't work off. Bless these guys. It's amazing what the volunteers do. I mean, I worked hard. I honestly, still my first year of coaching, I worked more hours than I do now, harder. And, you're like, I can't even fill my car up with gas. It's love. I just want to be with the guys and hang out, and you just learn from the coaches. But the love of something only goes so far as paying bills and paying rent. So
was it obviously it's a different transition going from playing and going back to being a coach. How did you change your mindset? And did you have to change your mindset being a coach, especially where you were the player previously?
Yeah, I had to change. I mean, because I thought as a player, especially my last years, I led more, but I try to lead by example. I've never been, still to this day, I'm never going to get mad, yell at people. I think I'm a firm believer in, unless there's just something completely wrong with you in the brain, people know when they mess up, especially on the field. If you boot a ball, you strike out. It's not like, oh, I was trying to do that. You don't yell at them. You build them back up. You lead. Like, let's just go out there, get after it, play even harder, get them next time. It was harder to do that from the dugout because you weren't really playing and leading, like setting the example energy-wise. I tried to just bring energy. I mean, I was the bottom of, obviously they're going to listen to Hood or Scalf or Howell. Those are the coaches who are really giving them the specifics. I was more like a cheerleader. I was, I'm not far removed. I'm only 1 year out of playing. I still know what it's like. I'm trying to bridge the gap between Coach Scalf, who's, you got Gandalf here, and then me. You're trying. Sometimes it's hard, honestly, I think, to take that step back. I mean, this guy's been around the game so long. He knows so much. He's so knowledgeable, but also trying to take that what put it into an 18-year-old's brain and try to make that connection, because we're young, we know everything, or just the way to kind of communicate. So I was trying to just be that liaison, or like, hey, he's not mad at you. This is what he wants you to do. Go do this. Or from the player, like, coach, this is what we're trying to make these guys mesh. So that was kind of, I embraced that role. So I wasn't really, I wasn't the player anymore. I wasn't really like the coach teaching them all this stuff. I was trying to just help everybody get along and, I guess, interpret everybody's language there. And then for me, being on that side, gosh, you go to all the meetings and you learn real quick. Like, Coach Hood might show up at the field and he's in a pissy mood. You're like, what happened to him? Well, there's a lot goes on besides just coming out there and hitting ground balls and throwing BP. You might have somebody's getting in trouble in class and they have to hear it. They have to deal with the teachers, or they have to deal with the athletic director, scheduler. There's so much that goes on behind the scenes you don't know as a player, because we just show up, put our uniform, we go play, we go home, we hang out with the buddies. But these guys are just working their tails off, and I get it. You get frustrated when stuff doesn't go right, or if you have to deal with stuff. So my first year was feeling it out. My second year, I tried to take on a little more coaching, and I would work more with the infielders or hitters, like try to be more of a coach and try to show that I could, be, if I wanted to do this for a living. And coach, they put me at third base. I was, sending runners. I got a few guys hosed. I'll never forget those. hearing it from the fans, but they gave me a lot more responsibility, and I loved it. And ultimately, I got offered a job after that year to go be recruiting coordinator. I forgot what it wasn't at. It was a smaller school, and I was just like, man, I just don't know the dollar amount. I was like, I don't know if I can do this. I love it so much, but I'm not seeing my family. I'm not seeing my girlfriend as much as I want. I don't know financially. They're bigger men than I am, put it that way. To earn my stripes, that where I felt like I was starting from scratch. I just didn't know, and so I sort of took a step away, and that was the end of my baseball.
Yeah, 2010, 2011, the coach there, as you said, did a lot of different things, first base coach, third base coach at times, and then some odd jobs. You actually worked for your future wife's family's business, I guess, for a little while. And then your brother came calling a second time. And why was it different the second time? Because you had this opportunity once again. What changed in your mind that, okay, let's give this another shot, and maybe this is where my future is?
I think it was just a mindset. I'd matured a little bit, and also it probably because now the second time it could be my choice to do it. It wasn't like he got me in, but I'm forever grateful for working with their family. They had two power sports businesses, and one was just needing some help. So I started in the Greenville store. I was called the yard guy. So I was the I was like the lowest of the low. I clean up, pick up trash, and I learned, and I basically learned everything from the ground up. I took out the trash every day. I swept the floors. I learned how to build the machines. So I learned the business, and it was amazing. I learned, and then I progressed my way up after the first couple of years to sales manager. I did all the sales. I learned about machines. She was doing finance. And God bless if you can, we spend all day together anyway. We work together still, but we realized, because at the time we were only dating, we weren't even engaged. I was working with her, all day, driving an hour and a half from Goldsboro back and forth every day to work. So you spend it became like I'm with this woman all the time, and that's when we actually got engaged. So we worked together. I think it built our relationship even stronger, hers and mine, and then just work with her family. But it was kind of one of those things where ultimately I didn't want to be a salesman my whole life, because I love people, but getting cursed out by somebody or coming, there was always something going wrong, and that's one thing for people to listen. If your car is in the shop, or don't take it out on the guy who's answering the phone, because he's just trying to make $1 and he's trying his best. Because when I came manager, I was like the vocal dartboard. Everybody just talk to him, and I just get at the end of the day, I was like, oh my gosh, it's like I've just been assaulted. But so Sam called me on the movie called Hunger Games. And I was kind of, we were working, we had a good job, but he was like, look, you come in here, I think you have fun, try it again. And I was like, you know what? Yeah, let's give it a whirl. So I talked to her parents, said I need to take a week off. They said, cool, go for it. And I went, and it was a totally different, I don't know, like I said, because maybe I had matured a little bit, or there's a different group of people. And I went in, it was so much like the baseball world, where the first scene I did was about 20 stunt guys, night shoots again, but it was just the camaraderie, the friendships, and you're watching these guys perform. And maybe because I got to see more people perform different stunts, and there's like these guys doing big high falls and fights, and there's so much that can go into this filmmaking. You're just watching like, wow, it's amazing to see. There's so many talented people, and there's basically a different skill set for everything. So I think there is a place for me. And
that was what, 2013.
Yeah.
You doubled for Liam Hemsworth, I guess, on the Hunger Games as well. And then eventually your brother started doubling for Chris Evans, Captain America, the Marvel Universe. What was that like? Because how did that get you connected to that?
Well, Sam, he had been in the business for, probably 8 years before I got into the business. So this guy moved to LA when he was 18, 19 years old, didn't know a soul. He was just super talented, crazy. And he's one of these guys that nobody's going to tell him no. He's going to get to where he's going, and whether blood, sweat, and tears, he's going to outwork you. And he got this name in the business for being, one, he's just a good guy to be around, but he was so tough. You couldn't kill him. And you hit him with a car, and he pops right back up. Let's do it again. And it's like, oh God, easy guy. But he became so tough, and he won all these awards for hardest hit. Like the World Taurus Awards are just like the stunt world's Oscars. So he's won all these big awards, and his name already, the Hargrave name, like I had name in baseball, he had in stunts. So as I got in, he gave me my start, my first job. And then he said, I gave you your start. Now I'm not going to hire you again. You have to go out and learn to hustle, which hustling means you have to get a headshot and a resume, and you go. It's the most awkward thing in the world is you go onto a film set and you find the stunt coordinator and you go shake their hand and say, hey, I'm Daniel Hargrave, or I'm Mike Vaccaro. Here's my headshot. Here's my resume. Here's what I can do. I need a job. And they look at you and, okay. If some guys are nice and they'll give you the time of day. Otherwise they're like, get the hell off my set. Like, get out of here. So you're like, okay, I'm trying to work. It's just a weird way of trying to get work. So I had to learn that. He wasn't going to hire me. So then I'd blast emails and I'd finally get some jobs. And I did get some jobs because of my name, my Hargrave. They're like, oh, we know your brother. And whether it was good or bad, either they loved him or they hated him. So I would get hired sometimes both. One, if a coordinator didn't like him, they would hire me and give me a crazy spot and try to mess me up. Or if it was his friends, he had this tough nut, just persona. So they put me in some tough spots. So I learned pretty quick to, protect myself and learn how to fall and get up. And it was a crazy way to start, but knowing how tough he was, I had to sort of follow in suit if I was going to survive in the world. So.
And I guess maybe do you go back to your childhood, because you guys were kind of making movies growing up together, and so was that something that he always wanted to do? And then all of a sudden, years later, you're working together on movie sets. It had to be crazy to think that.
yeah, as a kid, he's 3 years older, but he's always been like, reading books and just watching movies, and he was so smart. And as a kid, hindsight, my friends would come over. There's 3 or 4 of us running around. And he would play with us, but basically he would tell us what to do, directing the whole time. So then we have little homemade videos where my sister would run the camera and he's directing, and me and my buddy Clint, we'd do a fight scene and he'd come in and he was always the hero. He'd beat us up, or he'd tell us how to fall, or he'd throw us through a window. So it's the exact same thing. We just get paid more money and we're adults. Well, we pretend to be adults now, but yeah, it's crazy going full circle, like making the same type of movies, and he's the same boss, and working with him. I mean, we get on set. We're still best buddies, and we clown around a lot. And probably my accent's a little thick right now because I've been around the South, but we try to hide it in LA or in the Hollywood business, because you try to have no accent because they're like, oh, you're from the South. But when we get around each other, we just become, and we're like, I never knew he was from the South, or we just have a good time, and that makes work so much more enjoyable. But back to your Chris Evans question. He started doubling Chris. He did Avengers, Civil War, all these big movies, and he and Chris had a good relationship. And then when he graduated or moved on to stunt coordinating and directing, he and I are the same size, same height. I actually doubled Chris for the last 2 Avengers, and it worked out. I've doubled Chris a few more times, and it helped out being the same size. But also, I mean, there was 4 other guys. We all auditioned to double Chris. It wasn't like I just was given the job. We all auditioned for different spots, and ultimately I was going to be Captain America. The other guy was Iron Man. So he didn't give me anything. I mean, I had to earn it. So, and it was tough. That was a tough movie, and a lot of, again, you're following in some big shoes. They've done some great stuff, and you're every day like, God, I hope I don't mess it up, because I don't want to be the guy that screwed up Captain America,
Yeah, that's a lot of weight on your shoulders there. Again, the Marvel Universe, so successful, all those movies. And I love the fact that you got to fight your brother. So you mentioned you fought him in your the first time Warrior back in Pittsburgh in 2009, that MMA movie. And then as Captain America, fighting Captain America, you guys do it again. And I've seen you talk about, too, extra special, that your dad was on set and had a chance to watch you guys fight each other.
Yeah, that was one of the most memorable moments probably in my film career. I mean, my dad and then one of our other friends from home and our chiropractor who'd been working on us since we were yay big, and my dad's really good friend. They all came down on set. And so, yeah, that scene in the movie doesn't translate quite as big as what it was, and from time constraints, but we had a huge scene and big stair falls, big fights. It was pretty amazing. And just, we in the business, we call it a previs. So like we'll read the script, we talk to directors, we figure out what ultimately they want to see. Then the stunt team goes, we film it, we shoot a previs or a pre-show of it. We would shoot all the fights, we put sound effects, we come up with a fight, choreograph it. So we had previs this fight and come up with mostly like a rough idea of what it was going to be. But he obviously was on set because he was stunt coordinating and second year directing this movie. So it was myself and this guy, Kyle McLean, who's one of my good buddies, the 2 Captain Americas. And we have our own style, but he has his own style. So it was prevised, and we had an idea what we were going to do. But when we got onto set, the set was a little different than what we thought it was going to be. Sam was like, I'm not doing that. We're doing what I want to do, basically, because he was directing the whole time we were fighting and just in charge. So, we jive so well together. And luckily, Chris had not really learned. And this is another to throw Chris. He's the most talented guy I've ever worked with. Most actors will come in and train for weeks to learn a fight. Chris will come in the day we're shooting it, watch it. He'll go, okay, show me again. Okay, I'll do it. And he just does it. And he's like, what? I've learned this for a week. And he's just so talented from his dance background. And he's just one of these guys. He's like a genius. So luckily we hadn't taught him a lot of fight, because we got on the stage and Sam and I are like, oh, let's do this. And the guys are just watching. And we'd worked so much with this team of stunt riggers who do all the wire work, Michael Huggins and Greg Mentor, all these guys who are our best buddies. And they're watching and we just flow. Like nothing's ever set in concrete. He's like, maybe we come off this wall, do this. And it's like just making stuff up. And the camera crew's just like watching us like, okay, these guys are nuts. And my dad's watching. So we'd set up a scene. We'd rehearse it once. We'd do it. And then we'd do something else. And it was just a week of just clowning around with your best friend, your brother growing up with. And my dad's watching monitor like, oh God, because we're both crashing downstairs and we're both just sitting there like, oh my God, are we alive? And I hit my head pretty hard. It looked worse than it was. got slung down and bounced my head off the glass, and everybody thought I was knocked out, but really my shoulder was hurt. I was just laying there, but everybody's, oh, my dad runs over there. I'm like, I'm fine, just relax. This is what I do for a living. So
Yeah, it's just part of the job, right? For you, yeah. I've seen that scene. You're going through the glass, you're going down, several flights there. It's crazy what you do to your body. How much do you kind of take care of your body during, when you're on set and then getting ready for a movie? When okay, this one in particular is going to have some pretty big stunts.
right.
I got to make sure that I stay healthy during it. I know you've talked before. I've seen it about. You don't want to be injured. You don't want to be the person that halts a production of a movie.
Yeah. And unfortunately, stunt people don't really, unless you're dead, you're going to perform. Like I said, if you're a lead double, and there are times when you can't go. If you're too hurt, they'll bring somebody else in. But usually, for these superhero movies, we do get to where you have the option. They have a muscle suits like foam. They're terribly hot. They're miserable. So you try to bulk up as much as possible so you don't have to wear that. But impact training, like we train falls, you're always trying to hit the ground, or we train judo or something that's the body's taking hits, like not overdoing it, but always, it's just a totally different training. Cause like I've been coordinating now for the last couple of years, I haven't hit the ground in a while. If I hit the ground, it hurts a hell of a lot more, but it's just like any baseball or hitting or throwing, you got to condition your arm, you condition your body. And on this show, I did less because my son was newborn. I was playing dad more, but pretty much the whole show, we'd go in the morning. Say if we had a 7:00 call time, we'd go in at 5 a.m., train. We'd do the weights for an hour, then we'd box or do some sort of martial arts, and then we'd go work. So you're basically pushing your body just to, try to stay in shape, stay tight, and just, you're gonna get banged up. That's just the nature of the beast. But you just try to mitigate. And also, we had a guy who was on the full run of the movie. He was a physical therapist guy who was one of the best I've ever worked with, which in hindsight, in the baseball world, I wish there was more of this, a guy who, you're doing what you can in college because, it's all about dollars and who they can afford, but just the nutrition side of it and having somebody who's working on your body, everybody's different, just keeping the stretching and instead of just taking ibuprofen like we used to, just is more of a preventative measure. So we had this guy every Friday we'd get worked on, and that was kind of what your sanity kind of helped you go through. But I got busted up a few times. I, pulled my hamstring and separated my shoulder, but I was the double. So I duct tape my arm together, or I duct tape my leg, and it sucks, but you just do it. And then you laugh about it afterwards.
Well, certainly you've taken to the business very well. And you mentioned the Taurus Awards. You did win one for the scene in Atomic Blonde. Tell us about that. And because I watched that as well, and you're going down the stairwell there, and it seemed like you took some pretty big hits in that one. What was that like?
That movie was so much fun. It was just the whole movie from start to finish, because Dave Leach, who directed it, he's a former stuntman, so was one of the best stunt guys in the world, and now he's directing, and he just has a great personality. He's fun to work with. He has a great vision, but he also holds you to a higher standard. He expects you to perform because he's been there, done that. And so we knew we had to sort of do something special and push the envelope on this movie. Hey, buddy. My whole room is okay. Sorry, come here. Come say hi real quick.
That Hendrix?
Yeah, this is hi. Hendrix. Look, come here. Say hi. Say hi.
Oh, man. Was it 4 now?
8. How old are you?
4.
Yeah. Hey, I'll be out there in just a minute, okay? My home is okay, we'll get it back on here. I'll be out there in a second. Sorry, Mike.
Future baseball, future stuntman. What is he?
Man, I think he's got huge hands and he's got big feet. I think he's going to be an athlete. He wants to get in the stunt world, but he's also he has a heck of an arm and swings a mean bat. So we'll see what he wants to do.
So certainly a bright future, the future Hargrave out there. And you mentioned him with stunts, but your wife is a stunt woman as well. As you said, you guys work together. She wasn't, I guess, going to school for that because you guys met at UNCW. How did that happen?
Yeah, she was UNCW. She did communication studies as I did, and she took a lot of the news class or like filmmaking. So she always loved that side of it. And then when we moved to Georgia to get into the business, and she was training with me. I was doing stunts. She wasn't actively in there, but she kind of came from a background of racing. Her family was off-road racing, and she's a great driver. So her first job was doubling an actress, driving a car, sliding a car, doing a big slide 90, 90-degree slide, and that's how she got her SAG card. And she's been doing it ever since. She doubles. She worked a ton before the baby, and then she's still a stay-at-home mom when she wants to, but she can work as much as she wants to as well. But when Hendrix was about a year, she started back working, and I hired her a bunch. And now with the second baby, she's sort of doing the same thing, just a little recovery, and then she'll try to get back at there some. But yeah, she's talented. She's good fights and drives, and sort of does everything. She's at good height and size to double a lot of actresses, so she's had a good career.
How much time do you spend when you look at a script, you look at a stunt to really get that stunt down, get it right, and make sure it's safe? Obviously, again, you're a family man now. Your wife is doing it as well. You want to make sure that both of you are safe. How much time is spent looking at some of these different stunts to make sure? And do you ever say, no, that's not going to work? I'm not going to do that. That's just way too dangerous.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's, it depends on, in my shoes now as a stunt coordinator, my job is to break down stunts, and what is written on paper doesn't always, transcribe to what's on TV. Because a lot of times writers either don't have any clue about fight stuff, but God bless them. But it's ultimately our job is to entertain the masses, but also everybody deserves to go home at the end of the day. So we try to do what we can to entertain people and do as big a stunt as we can, but also safety is always the main thing. But there's so many measures we can take now with, for being a big high fall, we're almost always on a wire these days. So you have a built-in security system there, or the stuff you don't see on camera. We build, 10 feet deep or 10 feet high by 40 feet wide of cardboard boxes with layers, and the guys will fall into those. So they're, you'll shoot them in the air, but then you're hitting a cushion. To me, safety, luckily I've had a pretty good rap sheet as far as keeping guys safe. There's always times things can go wrong, but that is sort of what stunts are. If it was safe, the actors would do it. Stunts are dangerous acts that we're doing on camera, but everything is calculated to mitigate the risk. We want to do everything we can, even knowing there's a chance something gets hit. Like, for instance, doing a car hit, you're hitting somebody with a car. There's no way to get around it. There's a person standing there and a car hits them. So hopefully you learn there's ways to tuck your shoulder or hit and try to go with the momentum of the car, lift your leg, don't leave your leg down so you don't bust your knee. So, but at the same time, there's moments you just have to sort of cowboy up and say, okay, I'm about to get by a car. It's going to suck. It's written, it's going to be great. People are going to love it. And you nurse your wounds with your paycheck, I guess.
So not everything is character or generated these days. A lot of it is still actors doing this stuff.
Yeah, there's still, with CG and computer, everything can be made better. And there's still things that you can't really fake. You can fake a car hit. We do it in a comp, like how we're a split screen. You would do it in a comp shot. Like we've done it successfully. It still never translates quite as well as if you really do it. But there are ways to do things these days. You would just have an actor there on a wire and on a lock-off camera, yank him out of the frame, and then keep the camera there and drive the car in the same frame. Then you just sort of combine them. But we still light guys on fire. They do fire burns, which you're covered in fire gel and a fire suit on, but you're on fire. So physically on fire. They're getting hit by cars, fights. There's stuff that's still, that's why, and the car crashes. That's one of probably the craziest and most fun stunt to do. You're in a full roll cage, you're in helmet, fireproof suit, harnesses, your mouthpiece. You're basically strapped in this thing. And it's the craziest one to watch. Any type of car crash is crazy visually, but it's one of the safest stunts to do. And more guys there's especially the guys who only crash cars these days. A lot of them are the older guys who they can't physically do all the running, the fighting and stuff, but they can still crash cars. They push the pedal and they hang on, and because you're strapped in there. So again, stuff can go wrong, but we laminate the glass or take glass out, and there's so much preparation that goes in to try to save these guys. It's crazy, and it's the most crazy adrenaline rush you'll ever have. And after you crash a few cars on camera, it makes you like, why the hell did we drive without a helmet and a harness and driving down the road? I've seen what can happen. It's kind of crazy to think about your average people, but.
Yeah, you mentioned the adrenaline rush. You mentioned earlier about playing football you wanted to catch. So again, that kind of correlates to your career now. What's next in your career? What are you hoping to do? What do you want to do? Obviously, Captain America is kind of off of the Marvel universe right now, as far as we know. So maybe you're not doubling Chris Evans, but what is in the future for you?
I'm kind of I've just the last couple of years sort of transitioned. After John Wick 3, I was on that show, doubling Keanu some and just being part of the fight team. I had the opportunity to stunt coordinate the TV show MacGyver. So I'm really not performing much anymore. I'm hiring, doing more of it's basically coaching. I do all the meetings, computer work, hiring, behind the scenes stuff. And then I design the stunts, keep the guys safe. And physically, it's less demanding. You know, I'm not getting beat up anymore. Mentally, it's a little more challenging, but I enjoy it. And then I'm also directing now, part of the Directors Guild. Second unit directing is what it's called. So action directing, car chases, fights. Ultimately, I would like to direct. My brother has made that transition. He's shooting his sequel right now on Netflix, Extraction 2. So he made his way there. He's directing. I'm not in a huge rush to direct because I really enjoy. I mean, there's just totally different from the second unit or action unit versus the acting, because I enjoy the art of acting as well. But second unit, you're blowing up stuff, you're crashing cars, you're shooting all the fun stuff, and it's a whole lot less dealing with. I don't have to talk to the actors, agents, or deal with their scheduling. I'm with my stunt guys, so basically, it's like being at the baseball field with my team. You know, we're there, the guys you're used to dealing with, your camaraderie. You go in there, you blow stuff up, you have a great time, and you go home. So it's honestly the best. I mean, every day I'm there, it's kind of surreal that this is my job and I get paid to do this. So we're not curing cancer or doing anything crazy, but I would like to think that, you know, filmmaking, sometimes it helps me. You are entertaining people, and especially in a time like now when people if they're locked in their house or they can't get out, if we can entertain people or give people, if it's a movie, 2 hours of joy or an escape from reality, or a TV show, if it's 30 minutes, or, you know, they don't have to think about real life and they can watch us do stuff. That's kind of what keeps pushing us to do our art form. It's kind of enjoyable.
Well, it's amazing. Again, something that you never thought you would do, and now you're well versed, obviously, in the business and trying to move your way up and be a director as well. So it's amazing to see the success you've had. I know a lot of folks at UNCW and UNCW baseball certainly proud, and it's great to watch these movies and say, yeah, I know that guy right there. I was in a class the other day. I said, Captain America is from UNCW, and somebody said Chris Evans. I said, well, kind of, yeah, Daniel Hargrave. So you've certainly made a name for yourself. As you said, that Hargrave name carries a lot of weight in Hollywood these days. And I can't thank you enough for spending some time with us here today and sharing your stories and certainly your baseball memories with us as well, Daniel.
Yeah, man. And just, hearing it's crazy that your voice, like when I think of UNCW sports, it's your voice and your personality. These are memories that, with you guys and Tom Reardon and the coaches, it's memories that I'll never forget. And it was 4 years, went so fast in Wilmington, and the camaraderie, just that place was just like really home. I mean, once I went there, I didn't really ever move back home where my parents are. That was my life. And you sort of build off that. And I think a lot of probably my success in this field comes from baseball, like just the lessons, probably the best thing about the coaches there was they were tough. I mean, they were fair, but they were tough. They wanted you to be a good young man. They wanted you to learn, have manners, be on time. I mean, Jimmy Mayhew, he's not there anymore, but he was the strength coach. And I remember you hear stories before you even get to college. If you're late, you run till you throw up. And I was never late. And it just teaches you discipline. And I think that, Coach Scalf, people joke around with him all the time, or make the way he talks, or his he has all these one-liners. He could write a book of just Scalfisms, but pay attention to detail or little things, and you like, oh my God, I hear this again. But paying attention to details, where I am today, because on set I watch the camera guys, I watch every department, see what they do, how do I make their job easier. It's just these guys are there for a reason. They're not just baseball coaches or guys telling you what to do. They're life coaches, and if you can just listen and you hear, and even if you learn one thing that could help you in your future, and then just the relationships I'm so honored to be back on your show. It's like I love being with you guys, talking to you guys, and if I can ever do anything for you, let me know. All
right, Daniel, that's awesome. Again, best of luck to you with your family and your career as well. We'll continue to watch and watch the progress of your son, and maybe again, Hendrix Hargrave, remember that name, maybe a future star either on the baseball field or in the movies as well.
That's right. I appreciate it, Mike, and you guys have a great day.
Well, again, my thanks to Daniel Hargrave for joining us here today and sharing his stories with us, his time at UNCW and now in Hollywood as a stuntman and a director, and his time with the Marvel Universe, doubling for Chris Evans' Captain America. My thanks as well to current UNCW head baseball coach Randy Hood for helping connect us with Daniel Hargrave here today. Once again, we remind you to subscribe, like these podcasts. We'll have more great interviews and episodes coming up very shortly. Thanks for joining us here today. We'll see you next time on another edition of In the Front Row with Mike Vaccaro. Have a great day.